Literally, just before our call, I was asking my call code to use Kite to purchase a supplement pill collection box on Amazon because the reason I'm trying to become more healthy.
Hello, and welcome to AI Curious. My name is Jeff Wilser. I'm a journalist, I'm a human, and I am curious about AI. And today I'm curious about how you buy things, because it's about to change completely. So think about the last time you bought something online. Now, sometimes, yes, this is fun and you enjoy online shopping. I get it. Retail therapy, it's a thing for sure. But sometimes it is a pain in the ass and it's kind of a headache. Like, for example, when I need to buy USB cables, I don't really enjoy the process of finding the best combination of price and Amazon reviews. I just want the damn USB cables. It's kind of tedious. Now imagine if you have an AI agent doing all of that. You told an agent the budget and the gist, and the next time you thought about it, that box of USB cable is at your door. This is no longer a thought experiment or a hypey, hand-wavy, maybe in the future. People are building the plumbing that lets an AI agent go find a thing and actually pay for it. And if that becomes how we shop, it changes who businesses are selling to. Suddenly, your most valuable customer might stop being you and start being the agent shopping on your behalf. Today, my guest is Chi Zhang, co-founder and CEO of Kite. Chi and I first met a few years ago back on stage at an AI conference where I hosted a UC Berkeley Innovator Showcase. We've spoken a bunch since, including on panels together at AI conferences. Now, Kite, in a sense, is the Stripe for agents and the infrastructure for Stripe for agents, the payment layer that lets your agents buy things. Now, here's why this grabs me. Agentic commerce, the fancy phrase for all this, has been a tantalizing idea for years. Great on a whiteboard, but pretty theoretical in practice. I wrote about something called micropayments 6 years ago, and the experts told me that even if the tech worked, humans wouldn't do it. Like there's a lot of theories of, what if, it could save publishing? You just pay, if you want to read some article, you pay 14 cents and it goes to the writer. But the reality is humans don't want to do that. No one wants to decide whether you spend 14 cents. And they were right about humans. But an agent has infinite patience for spending 14 cents, 37 cents. And in the last several months, things have changed. This is tipped from theory towards real, with a genuine race on. Visa, MasterCard, Google, Shopify, they're all working on things like this. Now, Shopify is interesting. They first told agents more or less to get lost. Then they quietly reversed because, as she puts it, it's a one-way ticket, that this tide is coming for everyone. This is many of the big players are realizing this is how online shopping will evolve. And Kite is not the only one, but they are one of the core projects in that race. And they have an actual version of this that you can try today, or rather that your AI agent can try today, called Kite Agent Passports. Again, this is becoming very much a real thing. Now, fair warning, Chi and I do get into the weeds a bit, the actual infrastructure for an agent to spend your money safely, down to how my agent knows your agent is not a scam wearing your face. But in some ways, the complexity is the point. I think it's kind of important to cover. This is not some thing you vibe code in a half an hour, and now we have a whole new economy. There's a lot of technical challenges to overcome to make us all be pulled off. And then we do pull back to what it all means for shopping, for business, maybe for the economy itself. And I honestly think there's a lot more to say about this topic, and we're still just scratching the surface in many ways. So with that, please enjoy my conversation with Chi Zhang, co-founder and CEO of Kite. Chi, welcome to AI Curious. It's so good to see you again after we first met now a few years ago, I think, Innovator Showcase by UC Berkeley. Great to talk to you again in more depth.
Thank you for inviting me. And as Jeff, you mentioned, gracing you so many times in the last 2 years and finally being on your show.
Yeah,
So
in
let's
2 or 3 years, it's kind of like 2 or 3 years in the AI space is like 20 or 30 years in like normal world, right? I feel like it's evolved so quickly, and Kite has obviously evolved so much, and we'll get into all of that. But I actually want to start in a place most listeners will have no idea that this is part of your background. You, I believe, your origin story involves inline speed skating. Am I right on that? You're a speed skater before all of this AI wildness?
Yes, that's correct. My initial career dream was really becoming like a famous or like a very good speed skater, which obviously I didn't succeed, but that was my
Is there
original story.
anything, is there the curveball for you? Is there anything speed skating taught you that later your PhD, your business school did not? And then it's a corny stretch, but like, AI is really freaking fast right now, right? It's even literally speed skating. Any principles you learned from speed skating that have helped you out?
Yeah, definitely. I think beyond speed skating, actually, it's in general skating, because I think while I was doing speed skating, I was also doing some of the more extreme
Mhm.
freestyle of skating. And that's all taught me, I think one thing is hyper focus to what you want and forget
Mm.
about the outside or forget about the noise. And if you are just very into that moment and just listen to yourself about what you want and just look at that. I felt like that's a very similar practice when I remember my snowboarding coach was telling me when we do the tree ride, don't look at the
Mm.
tree, just look at
Mm.
the destination. Because if you look at the tree, you will hit the tree. But if you don't, you actually will most likely avoid that tree. So I think is what I learned in a very, I think, deep way that when I want something, I just look at the thing I want and forget about, worried about too much that how the world is changing too quickly. So I'll be, have the higher failure chance and, I will not be able to compete with other companies or other people. So I think that's the biggest treasure I took from the skating journey.
When we met, which I think is, geez, almost 3 years ago now, you were ZetaBlock was your company. Talk a bit about kind of the transition, the evolution from ZetaBlock now to Kite. Maybe kind of give a brief sense of what ZetaBlock was, and then what was the catalyst for how you guys have evolved.
Sounds great. So ZetaBlock, aka Databricks of Web3. What does that mean is we started building a data infrastructure company that we think is what's missing piece
Yeah.
that the blockchain industry will need, especially when it comes to more serious use cases and businesses are adopting blockchain technology. So that enterprise grade indexing and an analytics platform is needed. So that's just what we are doing at that time for on-chain data for a lot of the layer 1, layer 2 customers and some of the enterprise customers in the crypto space. And Kite, another simple way to think of that is a Stripe for agent. So what does that mean is now we're building the next generation payment infrastructure that agent native internet is needed. And that's what help us to really turn your agents from a personal assistant that you can just ask them to get advice from them to someone who can truly do the work for you. They can book the ticket for you. They can plan the trip for you. They can buy grocery for you. They can actually build app and pay for the API, pay for the cloud credit, pay for like the frontier foundation model API for you. So
To take a stab at synthesizing this kind of for listeners who aren't following every twist and turn of AI infrastructure, the way I've been thinking of this for the last couple of years, I mean, even on the show a year and a half, 2 years ago, when AI agents were still a little more of on the whiteboard only, still more of an idea, right? I remember explaining it as, okay, very simple explanation of the way most people were using ChatGPT 2 years ago plus was like, maybe you're trying to plan a vacation to Berlin, right? And so you're like asking it for like advice on best time to go, best neighborhoods to stay in, and so on. That's what all a chatbot could do. But an AI agents could actually go and you say, hey, I want to buy flights to Berlin and I want to go on this weekend, but actually you find I have some flexibility. So you, my AI agents, I want you to find the best flights for me within these parameter of days. You knew my preference. I prefer window seat or aisle seat, whatever. Here's my budget, and just go do it. Right. And they would actually do that. And so that's I think one of the easiest way to understand what agents do. But I think like the complexity in there that kind of just glossed over is the actual infrastructure of buying the ticket. Right. And like actually there's a lot of plumbing that has to happen for an agent to go to United's website or whatever it is, to Delta, to actually book the flight. And what Kite is doing is creating an infrastructure to actually allow agents to commercially transact so that I could go and give kind of plain English commands to say, all right, I want to buy this electronics or this flight or this consumer goods or whatever in plain English, give parameters, and the agent goes and does that. Am I summarizing this closely, or am I warm on my understanding of all of this?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, the simple way to think of this is consumers just need OpenAI ChatGPT plus Kite Passport to make it happen for helping you to find the ticket and book it. And if something is happening with changing your schedule and everything, that will even automatically take care of that for you. Of course, not right now, given the limitation of agent, but how the ultimate scenario will look like is like this. It's basically your own agent plus Kite that make everything happen.
Your tagline is agency for everyone. What does agency mean here? Okay, how do you? And I'm guessing it means something even a little deeper than just the AI agents. How do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think when we call it an agency for everyone, what do we really mean is nowadays AI is really intelligent enough that generally capable to do many things, but for many other reasons, which we will break it down later on, that not everybody can truly like leverage agent well or leverage agent in the capable way that the agent actually can do now to do stuff for them, no matter it's for their individual daily lives or for businesses. So agency for everyone, meaning that we are really trying to be the infrastructure that let anybody have many digital assistants or digital employees or, teammates who can actually do things on your behalf, but not just suggest them or just get some advice from them, if that makes sense.
In other words, like it kind of occurs to me that I think a lot of like the shiny objects and like AI nerd Twitter X or AI nerd LinkedIn or Reddit, whatever, you hear about very sophisticated power users doing very clever things with like harnesses, right? To like try and build together their OpenClaw or Hermes or whatever. And they kind of have like this like clever, they have like, oh my God, this system of like markdown files and context files. And I'm switching models. And I'm like, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. running this model, 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. It's all, and it's fascinating. But my guess is, Chi, to your point, that's probably less than 1% of all AI users are using it in this extremely frontier way. And it does require, frankly, like hours and hours and hours of experimentation to get good at that kind of stuff, right? And your idea is abstracting away all of that kind of like duct tape you have to do to create some clever system and make it dead simple. That, okay, cool. We have you're in Claude or you're in kind of ChatGPT, and then you have your Kite Passport, and now you have agents that can actually go out there and buy things. Am I getting that correct?
That's correct. But one thing I do still want to point it out is for some of those use cases that you mentioned, those AI nerds or developers are trying to make those workflow happen. That's just in those type of use cases, it still is unavoidable process to make the entire flow that efficient or, like have a higher success rate, which actually to me, that's more fall into like the agent capability itself, no matter it's from the improvement of the foundation model or it's through the agent harness that they have to do. But eventually the goal is to actually make the agentic workflow as smooth, as successful as possible. And then in that case, infrastructure like Kite will then make the payment itself as much, like a higher success and, like a lower risk or fraud exposure as possible. So I think that's, to me, is the two things that need to work together ultimately to make this agentic payments or autonomous agentic economy happen. But obviously for some of the use cases, like we talked about for the, especially consumers or like end users, like booking the ticket and everything, the only way you can actually make the end user is willing to use your solution and really use that in a regular way is actually the extremely good user experience, which also I think takes a lot of time to iterate and to polish that workflow, which that's why it's a lot of the devil in the details that Kite is trying to abstract away from the end users as well.
Totally. And one reason it's so interesting of what you're doing right now is for so long, this has been kind of a tantalizing possibility, right? And even like we've covered it at Consensus. And for listeners might or might not know that I, part of my world is working with the Consensus conference and to have content on the kind of intersection of AI and commerce and agentic AI and so on. And a lot of people are excited about cryptocurrency as being kind of rails for agents. And so this has been discussed for a couple of years. Oh my God, exciting. But now it feels like it's actually starting to really happen. So Chi, can you give us a lay of the land of where are we on a timeline of to what extent this is theoretical and to what extent is it actually happening right now? And like what's possible right now for users to do with Kite and the tools you're building?
Yeah. So I'll start from the conclusion. Actually, then I want to tap back a bit to the origin starting point of Kite and where we see the difference between, like 1.5 years ago and where we are nowadays. And then, talking about the things that potentially can be enabled nowadays and in the future. So, to me, the conclusion is, I think the agentic payments is coming actually sooner than people thought. And, are we in the stage that, it has some mainstream adoption that's everybody's using that in daily basis? Not yet. But is that coming? Because of two reasons. One is I think the use cases is becoming more and more clear that people are interested in using agent to access and pay for services. Plus, a lot of the infrastructure middleware protocols has been emerged over the last 1 year. So that is the reason why, the two major reasons why I think agentic payments or agentic commerce is coming sooner than people expect. But it's still going to take some time. And how long is that going to take? I don't think anybody can really predict that in a very precise way. But to me, roughly, I felt like in the next 6 months, we will start seeing more and more legit and like higher volume type of use cases start showing up. So that's the conclusion. Yeah.
Okay. So to unpack that a little more, what are some of the use cases? You mentioned there's a lot more exciting use cases right now. What are some of the ones that you're seeing most? And maybe what surprised you? What would you have not have guessed 1.5 years ago? And you're like, people are really asking to do X, Y, and Z.
Actually, I would say, funny enough, that none of the use cases is like aha use case.
Yeah.
Maybe one use case is, I don't know if you heard of a word called like a token reseller business right nowadays. It's a very popular type of business model for people to basically, like help, like sell or they resell the foundation model token, to people who, yes, to scenarios where, for example, that they can they can cache. They can basically ask a lot of like a common requested questions to ChatGPT or Anthropic and then cache the results into the caching layer and then resell those type of result to other newer customers who have similar questions for sent to the foundation model, and then they will give out the question, answers very quickly because it's cached in a caching layer.
Yeah.
That they can sell that with a 90% off, something like that. So it's like a token reselling business. So actually, it's a super, super hot and actually high margin business at the moment for many, I think, like small teams are doing.
I a whole episode just on that. That's fascinating. So you mentioned there's use cases, there's real demand there, and also infrastructure has improved. What were the biggest, like, without getting too deep in the weeds here, Chi, what were the biggest infrastructure wins that have happened in the past like 12 months to kind of get us to the point where it's actually now possible and we're starting to see legit pilot programs?
Yeah. So this is actually where I want to start a little bit from the with the original history of Kite. So that's also actually probably touched the previous questions you asked, why pivot from ZetaBlock to Kite. So in the very beginning, when we were thinking about Kite, we literally launched the company 1.5 years ago. And even like in October 2024, and actually around like March 2024, that is where we start seeing the foundation model are getting better and the agents are getting more capable. But at that time, it's still not entirely enough to do too much. But in the late 2024, we start seeing companies like browser-based start using agents to operate as human on browser, like to help you click through and do stuff. And obviously then that's inspired OpenAI to launch the OpenAI operator, which is exactly the similar kind of like philosophy behind. And then many other companies are launching that. So at that time, you see that agents will help you to do stuff as what you normally do on browser, including Yelp, let's say Yelp booking. And usually Yelp booking, not every time, but sometimes ask you to provide your credit card as a payment method for future payments. And in that case, user or human, so then there's a trouble if I want to give the agent my credit card because what they're going to do with my credit card. So then the privacy become a concern. And even like the privacy is not a concern. People give their credit card to users, but to agents, but agents might just blow away that transaction because they operate too much like a bot. And then the credit card company will consider, oh, maybe it's a bot that's stealing is stealing that credit card information and trying to do something bad, fraudulent activities. So then they will turn down that transaction. So with all that, then we start looking into the market. At that time, we're inspired a lot by this problem or like hiccups that AI builders or developer friends that told us. And we're like, oh, that's right. Maybe we need a better solution that is more native money system for agent to use. And that's why we actually look around and felt stablecoin is a great solution. And thanks to our knowledge accumulated from ZetaBlock time, because we're serving a lot of the layer 1, layer 2 blockchain customers and stablecoin customers, we realized, oh, this could be a real good fit here. Then at that time,
just to pause there. So it's to synthesize a little bit of the infrastructure problem. I think it's worth kind of underscoring. It's kind of a daunting problem in a way, right? Of like, at its core, how does a merchant or a person, how do you trust this agent who is who they say they are, right? How do they know it is, like, if there's a Jeff agent or a Chi agent that are trying to transact, or you trying to buy something from me or vice versa? How do it's a question of trust and verification. And then also, I guess, a question of like, is it trust? Like, do I want to give my credit card number to this? It took a while for the internet to get comfortable with people putting credit card numbers on on browsers. Like decades ago, that was a scary thing, and they had to figure out the encryption and how to make it secure. Right now, people don't think about it, but before it was fraud. Similarly, there's a question of kind of verification, also privacy. and trust? Am I kind of getting the kind of big obstacles right of kind of the structural infrastructure problems that have to be fixed? And you guys like, we're actually pretty well positioned to address those infrastructure problems, given what you've been doing at ZetaBlocks. Is that a fair summary?
Yes. I mean, at that time, well, yes, and just a little bit correction. I think at that time, we're not considering like, ZetaBlock is fit to do that because we already have the infrastructure built for this problem. But we felt that we come from AI background and we've served many blockchain customers and we know how stablecoin is working. And obviously by working with those customers, we use the stablecoin even for our own purpose, internal purpose. So that's why we're like, this is actually a great combination of this intersection of AI and blockchain technology, mainly when it comes to, like payments and, payment, entire payment stack, because payment itself is more than settlement itself. It's also about the identity and trust piece that you just described, because the entire, I would say, the entire business of PayPal and Stripe actually is built up on they can validate who the other side is, right? If they are not able to do KYC or KYB of their consumers or merchants, then how would they be able to even like for PayPal, for example, enable the peer-to-peer transfer, money transfer? Through Venmo and for Stripe, the similar things that how can they protect their merchant from like the potential like fraud transactions then that get disputed and that's become very expensive for merchant to handle. So I think all those things involves trust. Yeah.
Can you say a little more, Chi, about so for folks who are not deep in the blockchain space and even stablecoin might be a fuzzy concepts, talk about why that was a clear winning solution for you guys. Like, what are the benefits of using that kind of system as opposed to just like, cool, credit card information?
Yeah. So the first reason is what I just described, that if you are using credit card, but by the way, that's 1.5 years ago. I think things has been changed a bit recently. So then we can talk about what's the emerging protocols that's been launched recently. But at that time, we think one, credit card is not giving you privacy protection when you have to give this information to agents. So if you do that, then like you never know. It's basically like if you're a developer, if you ask developer, what's the most valuable assets that you hold in hand? Besides the code itself, they will say it's the API credential. So it's like, if you are using, I don't know if you ever like vibe coded with a cursor or Cloud, they usually will remind you like, don't give me your API credential. Don't give me your API credential. You have to put it in your local file and don't expose to me. That's very similar experience that when you are as a human, you give your payment method. That anybody can reuse that, like if they get access to that. And if you give that to an agent, you don't know how the agent will handle that. So at that time, I think stablecoin doesn't have this problem because stablecoin is through cryptographic wallet. And yes, you have to give some authorization to that crypto wallet, but you can control it because there's another solution called smart contract that you can actually set up a lot of the guardrail and limits to govern the permission. That's how the agent can use this wallet for when it comes to payments. So that's why we think the trust piece can be, like a handle there. And there's no privacy concern because again, you cannot reuse the crypto wallet unless you have the authorization. And that authorization can be configured in a very granular way if you use a blockchain-based solution.
So how then, to your point, walk me through how it's evolved. What's it like today? And then we'll kind of get into what this all means for like users in the future, how it might even like, I don't think it's too grandiose to say personally. I really don't, that this will like possibly reshape commerce and reshape even the economy, like how companies are selling things, right? I think like that's a peek ahead of the episode, but I really think that as the idea of agents shopping, that is going to change how most businesses even market and sell things. That's my personal take, and we'll get there. But I'd love to hear about what the Agent Passport is and kind of how it works and what it's like for users.
Yeah, sounds good. So, to start from there, I want to add the third piece about why stablecoin can be a better solution than credit card, and then go to where we are nowadays, because the third piece didn't change. Actually, the third piece become even more important as the advantage of stablecoin over credit card. So stablecoin, to people who are not familiar with, is we call it a very programmable money that can be used to pay for very micro transaction in a real time instant settlement behavior. What does that mean is, even if you are paying for a service that costs you, let's say, 10 cents, stablecoin can be an affordable solution there, because they only charge you very, very tiny, like 0.00.
Whereas a credit card, the fee would gobble up that actual small thing. It wouldn't be worth it, right?
Yes. So if you do some interviews among merchants, they usually will tell you like any payment below $10 is net loss to them if they're using credit card as the solution.
Yeah.
So that's why $10 is that cut. But for stablecoin, it can be go down to 0.001 cents. It's still an affordable solution for people to use. So that's why when it comes to agent payments in the future, one of the most promising, and we think the most native and promising use case that's not here yet, but it's definitely, to me, the most biggest bet you can ever make if you're a new entrant to the agentic payment space, is the API economy. It's the pay-per-use. It's like, now, instead of you say, oh, you have to subscribe for Bloomberg for annual subscription and pay for 5 figures to access those, you access their API with per call.
So micropayments, another way to put it, right? I think,
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is the part that's, I think it's not there yet, but it's what we see the probably most prominent future of stablecoin use cases compared to other traditional payment use cases or traditional payment method, to make it a better solution for an agent to use. So that's why we go with Kite for that.
As a quick aside, I wrote about micropayments years ago, and this is maybe 6-ish years ago. And the consensus of experts I spoke to was, well, even if the technology can work, psychologists weren't sure it actually would go mainstream, because it kind of takes a cognitive load, right? Maybe someone doesn't want to spend 37 cents on things. It's kind of a pain in the ass, frankly, right? But to your point, that was then when humans had to decide, do I spend 14 cents here or whatever? Humans don't have the capacity for that. You know who does? AI agents, right? And so I totally see it's very plausible to me that a system that was good in theory, but humans didn't enjoy doing it, might actually have legs when it's AI, when you just give an AI agent an instruction, hey, here's a bucket of $30. That's the max you can spend. Feel free to do it however. Maybe you spend 14 cents here, and you can do all these micropayments, and agents have endless patience for. So I think there's a lot to that. So I'd love to hear now about the passport kind of as it exists now, and we'll kind of get into where all of this is going, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, given that, let's see what's the industry. First of all, what's the industry has evolved over the last 1 year, because that's actually makes a lot of things has been honestly a little bit different than when we started the Kite. So I would say there's in general like a 5 buckets of, or like a 6 bucket or 6 layers of sections in this agentic payment flow. So the first layer is agent access service. And that has been evolved a lot in the last 6 months, because you see that CLI, MCP, and then skills has been involved, which means that it's become much easier for an agent to coordinate and interact with tools and everything. So that's actually then make it a lot more feasible to think about in the future agent need to access and pay for tools. So that's one. And the second is actually the service discoverability layer. What does that mean is everything that we think about, like booking a trip, find the flight tickets, and even pay for, let's say, Bloomberg API, everything is depending on whether the agent can actually accurately find that item. Yeah. Right. So that's why product discoverability or service discoverability becomes so important. And no matter it's the physical goods service like e-commerce and Amazon Shopify is providing, or like a digital service like, alternative data providers like NASDAQ or Bloomberg or like a bunch of the other, API companies are providing. It's all required. The first thing first is you have to be searchable by agent. And if you're not, then you're invisible.
I think that's really worth underscoring that, and this is basically a different version of GEO, right? Or like the AI version of SEO, generative engine optimization, I believe. That like in the future, if AI, thanks to AI commerce solutions like Kite, if AI agents are shopping on behalf of humans, I don't care what you're selling. Oh, I guess maybe there's bespoke. Maybe there's some industries that are truly immune to this, but the vast majority of certainly online businesses, whether it's consumer goods or if you're a consultant and whatever you're doing, it's very possible / probable your main customers are not humans, are actually AI agents on behalf of the humans who might be able to buy things directly from you using Kite in solutions like this. So it's like this actually, I think, a fundamental shift to the way that the economy works, which I think is something the average person isn't thinking about at all. And it's not that far away.
Yeah. And so in that layer, then you can see some companies who are more kind of like tech forward are turning their infrastructure and turning their service to become agent searchable, agent accessible. That include like Shopify, for example. Now they open up the entire payment catalog stack that's now agent can access. It took a while for them to figure out like how to do that, because it's even like there's a moment that they ban or like they specifically mention that it's violating their term of service if you're an agent that's trying to scrape their product catalog and everything. But then they're like, okay, we cannot go against this trend, right? Because it's just a one-way ticket. So you have to catch up the trend. So that's why I think now companies like them, and also more like tech companies, even like a GCP. I remember I was chatting with a Google GCP team that they're making themselves, they call themselves like an AI cloud. What does that mean? It's not necessarily just for, I can provide you foundation model and training GPU and all the stuff. It's actually a cloud that's agent accessible. Everything that they want to provide, every service that they list there, they want to make it agent native, which means if you are trying to use a table from BigQuery database, they want to make each of the table as agents, have its own skill that agent can access and call. So that is how we start seeing that second layer has been transformed by many companies that are tagged for like AI forward, that they are afraid will be left behind. Yeah.
And to your point, that's only going to continue. I can only see the energy. I think is I think we're early days there, and you might be laughing a few years at people who didn't think that was coming. So so
exactly.
What's the next kind of bucket, if you will, of a stack?
Yeah. So then the third bucket, of course, is we call this agent identity, passport primitive. We think the key is about the trust and authorization. So essentially, how do you have, like identity that you can verify what this agent is about and where it's come from and what is authorized to do and how you want to handle the delegation from this agent to another agent, for example, and if there's any policy enforcement there, and if there's a trustworthy audit log or like a irrevocable audit trial that has been attached to each of the steps that's happening in this agentic workflow.
Yep.
All of that is what we call the core agent primitives that to make the agentic payment trustworthy. So that is where then Kite obviously spent a lot of time trying to make that unify with the settlement stack together, because we think the settlement itself is honestly not the hardest piece, or is not something that is missing. It actually has been here. Let's just put it that way. Even if we or using credit card or virtual card to pay for agents, forget about stablecoin. You still need the identity, trust, the delegation, authorization piece, because without that, nobody will ever trust the agent to do something very serious in an autonomous way.
Well, one question I had, maybe this is a place to you can address it, is like, how does your agent know that my agent is really me and not like a scam wearing my face? How do you guys solve the problem?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, first of all, we give every agent, we call it a verifiable identity, and that's verifiable identity is and the scope limit. It's like, this agent, is actually acting for this person with this permission for now. So what does that mean then is this agent is not carry only this agent's ID, but also it's a human principle, or, like the user's ID together with them. Yeah. Of course, there's some privacy protection and everything that we have to handle. But the point here is, to us, the agentic workflow can always be break down to 3 layers of ID. It's the human principle ID to the agent ID to the scope, or like the session ID. Because the human principle will tell the agent, say, hey, this is something I want to do, right? And this can be a very simple one that's just to help me find a snack bar on Amazon and deliver that to me, or become like, help me operate a one-man company with a completely autonomous agent way. And of course, then that means the agent need to go out to talk to other agents, help me do this, do that, find their marketing agent, find their like a CTO, find all the different agent for them. And in that case, then the agent ID will then be connected to the rest of, like, say, the sub agents, where like the services APIs that they need to access. But all of that will be bucketed into what we call the third ID piece, called the session ID. And that session ID essentially is like, in order to finish that agentic workflow, that session need to be guardrailed in some way. And obviously the session can be, a very temporary session, last for 1 minute, because it's just a one-time thing, or it can be a forever session in some way, because if you are asking agent to run your own company autonomously forever, as long as you give them enough, API credits for using OpenAI API, then they can constantly running. So in that case, but the point here is, with those ID system, then we can have a different level of granular checkpoints to validate who these agents are and who they're acting for, or like on behalf of with, and then what's, again, scope and permission on the money side, on the non-money side, that they have the setup for.
Awesome. And then just to complete out the stack that you were describing, anything else that we need to know as far as how it works? And then I would love to kind of hear, just kind of like what the basics of what's possible right now, kind of describe the user experience. Yeah.
So then I'll finish that very quickly. Then there's 2 more layers that I think actually in the last, again, in the last 6 months, it has been involved a lot. So the 4th layer is we call it the network or protocol layer. So that is where you see X42 from Coinbase, MPP from Stripe Temple, and UCP, ACP from Google. That actually is trying to solve different type of steps, different part of this agentic workflow to make all the communication between agents and between agent and APIs and services are happening. So those are all the protocol things that...
A quick decoder for listeners who are not as savvy on some of these things. So that's basically those acronyms are more or less all the various communication plumbing that has to be put together to let one agent talk to the other agent, talk to a merchant, talk to payment rails. So it's a pretty complicated set of instructions, and like language has to be kind of created out of nothing. Am I getting it right, Chi? Sorry to cut you off.
Yes. And most of those protocols are public goods. Think about that in some way. It's very hard to monetize actually those public goods, but without them, forget about the agentic payment. Without them, you don't even have a standard way to communicate with each other. That's why people are so excited when MCP or scale is happening, because there's a finally standard way for agent to interact with services.
Yes.
So,
Okay. So there's that kind of like, very in the weeds, but crucial plumbing infrastructure that has to happen for communication. And then the final... crucial.
Yeah, very crucial. And the benefit and the good signal usually to me to see whether the industry is taking this very seriously or not is look at the protocol level and see how many big companies has been, launching their protocols. Because that is usually a signal that they're really then into the game because they want to define the industry standard.
Yes.
And honestly, I think usually it's anyway not a layer for small companies to stand for because
right. So I mean,
it's still hard for you to push.
The MasterCards of the world have their own protocols. Is that what you're getting at? Companies of that scale have their own protocols too. Obviously, yes. Google has so there's the big. This is no one at scale wants to sit this one out. To your point,
exactly.
This is a tidal wave that is coming. And everyone has to figure this out.
Exactly. When you see the big companies start pushing for those protocols, you know that they felt this is too big to miss. Then they want their name or want some standard to be also proposed by that. So Visa did the same, right? Visa proposed the intelligence commerce protocol. Why? Because that's that's an important thing for them to own. Yeah.
Totally. And so, was there a final bucket?
And the last one, of course, is the settlement, the blockchain settlement rail and Visa settlement rail. But that's it. So with all those layers adding together, that is where you start seeing agentic payment flow can start really working. And we're coming. I think that's why it's evolving so fast. As you can see, each of the layers has been made a lot of progress in the last 1 year.
And to kind of make it concrete, tell us about the pilot program you guys have and are launching now, and to kind of give us a sense of thanks to these having cracked the code at these different buckets of the pretty challenging tech problems. Now we're able to do things like in Claude, you can just, describe what you want. And the agents will go and track that down for you and actually buy it. Am I getting that right? And kind of talk about how it works.
Yeah, that's correct. So let's use then just the Amazon shopping as a very quick, as a simple example. So literally, I was just before our call, I was asking my asking on my call code to use Kite to purchase a supplement pill collection box on Amazon because every time I'm trying to become more healthy. And then this is the first time
when you find the right one, please let me know, and my Claude will buy the same thing. So thank you.
Yeah, and then I realized they actually suggested me the one that I purchased before, which is great because I used them before. And then that's where the agent will start searching for the goods that they have access to, those product catalog list from different platforms, in this case Amazon. So then in this case they give me 10 options of different boxes that I can use, and ask me which one I want to go with. Then the second step is I'll tell them I just want to go with option 1, and then they will add this item to the chart and to the cart and ask me, do I want to proceed with the checkout? And once I say, yes, let's proceed, they will then look into all my saved profile to fetch my shopping profile, because they need to know where the shipping address is, my name and everything. And then the next step is to ask me, do I want to, to confirm and place the order. And once the order is placed, they want to see if there's already a payment session has been attached to this, which is essentially, think about authorization session that has been attached to this order. And if yes, then nothing need to be done. It's go through directly. But if we have to authorize this session because we haven't authorized this session before, then the next step is actually with Kite Passport. Very simple. They will literally ask you, do you want to authorize this session with a list of budget and how long the session for and everything, with biometrics fingerprints on your MacBook, for example, because we are using this passkey to authorize that. And once that's authorized, everything will be ordered through. And this actually is a flow that we call it a human in the loop flow, because we still want to make sure that the human principle is okay with this option. And so they will ask you for twice One is to tell you, oh, if there's the three items, the options, then which option you want to go? I say one. And the second checkpoint for human is to authorize this payment session with the budget and how long for this budget that can be used and so on and so forth with my passkey. But technically, we can abstract all the things away to make it autonomous, which means forget about, select the option 1, 2, 3, because you will just go with option 1. And the second is I can authorize upfront of this payment session and just tell them like, okay, forget about what is the requirements I say for Amazon, but I just say, okay, I will give 2,000 budgets to Amazon per day for my agent to shop for. So as long as I'm asking the agent to buy something that's relevant to my prompt, and they can search that, oh, this is actually the best option that I should find and buy on Amazon, they will just go through that autonomously by themselves.
I can almost see it like, I don't personally have an assistant, like the personal assistant, that kind of thing. But I imagine for folks who do, let's say you might trust them to let's say, okay, hey, my assistants, George, can you please, I need USB cables for my podcast setup. Here's $20. Like imagine in a world where we're all in person, right? Like go to Best Buy, get me USB cables. I wouldn't want George to be like calling me from Best Buy saying, hey, Jeff, I found 3 different, one is $5.99, one's $4.99, one is brown. I'm like, I don't fucking care, George. It's not a big deal, right? Give me USB cables. This is like a low stakes thing. Then again, if I was like, George, I need to upgrade podcast equipment. I need a new microphone that's going to cost $500. I probably want to have some opinion on which one George gets, right? And so it's almost a similar principle, right? Like you delegate things that are low stakes. You might give full autonomy to an agent and say, I don't want to think about this until I see the USB cable arrive from Amazon box. And other things, you have a more active involvement. I think that might be a helpful way to think about what shopping could look like in the future for many of us. That is how we will shop. We just entrust the AI agents to do, and maybe even more trust and more research, right? And say, hey, figure out the best type of thing I need for this whole setup, and just go buy for a budget of $100. I don't want to think about it. I'm too busy. Just do it. And then, of course, different people have different thresholds. If you're a billionaire, maybe you do. I don't want to take $500. That's nothing. That's a quarter. It's a nickel, right? So maybe billionaires different level, but it's almost like AI agents will be doing more and more are the kind of the granular decision making of purchasing stuff, right? And so, is that kind of how you're thinking about this, Chi? Of how it's all headed?
Yes. And also what does that mean to a company, to a tool or infra company to us is we need to make our solution as flexible as possible so that whenever because for different scenario, high stakes scenario, low stakes scenarios, there could be you completely want to have no human in the loop, or you actually for each of the step, maybe you want still have some human principal checking checkpoints. Then that is where you want to make the solution itself very flexible. That whenever you need to insert authorization to delegate to the agent from human, then you can do that. So from that perspective, then the solution can be as scalable or cover different scenarios as possible.
Last couple of questions for you as we wind down. What does the end game look like here as agents begin to be paying other agents, as there's this kind of agentic economy? Maybe when we're maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, hell, 5 years from now, how does the economy and world of commerce look different in your vision, thanks to this kind of this new kind of energy that's happening?
Yeah. I remember we had this conversation or this question 3 months ago in the Hong Kong consensus, if you remember.
Yep.
And I remember at the time my answer is they cannot predict. But or at least the timeline.
I'm taking a second crack at it. Gee, I'm going to whether it's on stage in Hong Kong. I'm going to find. I'm going to take a crack at it.
Yeah, but I still will say stay with the same comments on I cannot predict the timeline. But I felt like how the future workflow or economy will look like is simple to me. It's like literally agents will do most of the delegation work for human after we solve all those questions about security, about trust, about privacy. Then I think the rest of the infrastructure actually is there already, especially when it comes to payment. Because if you think about settlement rail, there's actually a few settlement rails that are okay to be used for agent now. So that's not a biggest blocker. And the protocol we talked about again. There's a payment discovery. There's a product discovery protocols like UCP. There's a payments communication protocols like MPP, X42. And there's many other protocols that are coming to solve different part of this end-to-end communication steps. So that's also to me is not an issue, but the true issue is still like trust, privacy, and security, which especially recently, I don't know if you have been tracking on this crazy hacking incident that's happening everywhere, not just in, like the crypto, like the DeFi industry ecosystem. It's like pure Web2 companies get hacked all the time now. Because when you have AI now, you expose a lot of things unexpectedly, for example, like the API credentials and everything. So but once we solve that, I felt it's simple to predict, which is agent will do majority of the work for us. And then what we should really be focusing on is to be the best problem finder, to find the best, or like to find those underserved, unmet demands for ourselves, for our customers, for our partners, and then ask the agent to send the agent to solve that. I think that is how I see the future is really becoming.
I love that. I love that advice really to everyone. It's kind of it's a good, like, I think no matter what line of work we're in, it's a good kind of North Star right then. There, Chi, very cool. You guys, I honestly think this is a glimpse of the future of how shopping is going to look. I think you're kind of giving us a tangible look at what the future will look like. Best of luck to you and your team. Thanks again. Really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time as well.
Well, there you have it. Thanks again to Chi Zhang, co-founder and CEO of Kite. And thank you to Jasper Chua for the podcast production, editing, and videos, to Garrett Lang for the show's theme music. If this is your first time at AI Curious, please consider subscribing, rate it 5 stars, send to your favorite AI agents. Thanks again, and see you next time.